Hey, what's going on, guys? I'm Chris, and this is Regular Guy Training. So, I am on the road with yet another long-ass drive. Yeah, no fucking way, right? And I decided that I wanted to go through this kind of video. You read the title and that kind of shit. And for a while, I didn't really know how I was going to bullet point it. I didn't really know how I was going to order things. But I've had enough time to talk to myself in the car. And if you go on long drives and you don't talk to yourself in the car, or if you tell me that you don't, you're a fucking liar, because you do. Okay, similar to the shower. You finish that argument that you should have had, only you said all the shit that you should have said, right? I do a similar thing because I'm stuck in a rolling box for a billion hours. But I roll through some talking points on what I desire out of a firearms review, and a lot of you guys can see how that's kind of sprinkled in my stuff. What I view as important, what I view as fucking useless. And here's the thing about that, right? A lot of times, I'll put my opinions out there, and a lot of people will treat it as if I'm trying to state fact. Well, unless it's repeatable data that happens over and over and over again, like a magazine that fails ass at everything a million times, or whatever, right? Generally speaking, if I'm talking about a particular feature set on like a firearm or a piece of gear or whatever, most of the time I'm just giving you my personal opinion on the matter, right? And it blows dick that I have to explain this, right? But people are sensitive, so it is what it is, right? But here's what I personally look for in a review, and it might actually help you guys out as far as streamlining the process and that kind of thing. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to start with stuff that I view as absolutely worthless, right? Or what I view as not very important at all, right? So here's the first thing. The very first thing that I find absolutely useless, okay? And the first thing that I find absolutely useless, to me anyway, is unboxing reviews. Unboxing reviews are so pointless to me because you're trying to do research on a thing that you bought, and instead you have this clown talking about this thing that he just bought. He has no experience with it. The only thing that he can talk about is fit, finish, and features, which all of these things you can Google in 5 seconds, and you don't have to listen to this guy talk between 5 and 12 minutes on it. Retarded. Okay, I view unboxing videos as pointless as shit, and that's why I don't do them. Right. The next thing that I really don't look for at all is I don't look for like reviews that only talk about features and that don't talk about user interface. Fucking idiot. Right? Just as a for instance, every single one of you have looked up a video and have watched this to where they start talking about, where they start cycling through, okay, well, it's got this kind of sights, next, it's got this kind of rail, next, it has this kind of safety, next, X, Y, and Z are ambi controls, next, and they don't expound on any of it. They don't talk about how it relates to you. They don't talk about how those work in conjunction with that particular user and what it is that they're doing at the moment. And what they do, and what they especially don't talk about is whether or not something is gimmicky or incredibly useful. Right? Now, as far as that is concerned, right, all that is a blank slate. All it is I don't know what to talk about this fuel because I haven't used it a lot. That's what it says to me, anyway. So, a list of features, things that I can get off their website, right? That company's website, or things that I can Google in 15 seconds and read through text rather than have to watch this guy for 5 to 12 minutes talk about just those things. When I figure out that this is the type of review I'm going to get, I just kind of go away from the video. I don't find that very useful. Okay. The third one, and you can kind of understand, especially in the types of reviews that I do, that I find not very useful, okay? Other than I basically have a first impression or a demo, but it's usually masked as a full review, is any review that is less than 1,000 rounds on that gun. Because to me, when I do a review on a gun, right, you guys know that if firearms hang around with us, right, and this, a lot of times is luck of the draw, a lot of times they're just guns that we like and we want to keep around. We'll do what equates a first impressions review. And when I first started this channel, it was, I used to format like a legit review off of 1,000 rounds, right? And then over time, that's evolved into more and more and more. Most of the time because I just need data points and that kind of stuff, or I'll put it into other people's hands and see what they think about it. But at this point now, and I said it yesterday in my follow-up review on the HSP sling, you know, between 1,000 and 3,000 rounds is like a good first impression on that piece of equipment. Now, guys that fire like 500 rounds and sit there and be like, I shot a lot of rounds through this thing. No, you didn't. No, you didn't. And if you're going to roll through like a 30, 40 plus minute video after firing like 500 rounds through this gun and saying, well, it's good for X, Y, and Z and blah, blah, blah. I am not a fan of that practice at all. Like, at all. Because 500 rounds really is like a taste testing, really. What you're not going to see in short reviews like that are framed as full-length reviews is you're not going to see issues like heat treating problems. You're not going to see issues like cast front trunnions on the AK being a giant problem. That kind of thing, because they don't wear out that quickly. But if that's used by somebody who goes and takes classes and actually gives a shit about how they develop with their home defense rifle and that kind of stuff, that's a little important, because that investment turns itself into a liability, which is why I don't do like 500 round reviews and that kind of shit. I will not do that at all. And also, once you got those first 1,000 rounds in, if it has metallurgy problems and that kind of stuff, you start to see it immediately after that 1,000 round mark, right? Because heat treating problems, regardless to how polished out an action is, will start to develop because it's still metal on metal contact with like bolt and carrier groups and op rods and that kind of shit, right? And as a for instance, you know, like on the AK, you'll start to put stress on rivets and that kind of shit too. So post 1,000 rounds is when you actually start to see those things. So if you're running a full-length review off of 500 rounds, that isn't a legitimate review to me. That is not used anywhere near enough by people that are trusting your opinion in a lot of cases with their lives. Because a lot of times, it's not just that guy that watches a bunch of YouTube, that's a librarian or a safety inspector or a line cook or some shit like that, that is on a shoestring budget that just wants to get the thing that works, right? Now, those guys aren't any less important, but chances are they're not going to stress their guns as much as a guy that carries a gun for a job. You know, like a bat belt wearing type, fucking, like policeman, okay? You know, chances are he's not going to stress his gun out as much as that guy. Because chances are those dudes tend to train a little bit more. Now, the opposite is true. All the jobs I just listed, you know, are of guys that I've got in my head that have taken at least half a dozen classes from us, and a lot of them have equaled that number this year, right? So there are some guys that just train like savages all the fucking time. And the point is that if they're trusting you with the information you're putting out, you cannot say this is good to go after barely testing it. So I'm going to jump off of that soapbox really quick, because it infuriates me sometimes how little people will use shit and then say, oh, it's great. And people like that are the reason why I started the channel in the first place. But, you know, it is what it is. Now, things I do look for. things I do look for are actually fairly simple. What I look for is the guy is flip-flopping on the round count. The guy has had to have used it in that review for at least 1,000 rounds, right? After those 1,000 rounds, a lot of times I want to know how it handled things like accuracy, okay? How it handled accuracy after a little bit of heat. User interface is huge with me, right? Because, and it's not so much I'm trying to agree with everything that dude is saying, right? Whether or not that guy likes a particular thing within the switches or controls or how the optic looks to him, or how a particular safety feels, that kind of thing. I want to know what that guy thought of that and his user interface with it, because my opinions are likely different than his, right? And something that he doesn't like but points out maybe something that I like, and that might steer me in that direction. Now, and that's just a fact of life for most people, right? Just for instance, right, the MP 2.0 compact, right? A lot of guys really, really like that pistol, and I understand that. It is a reliable, accurate, dependable pistol that doesn't have a million parts to it. It works good. My issues with it are all user interface based. They're all personal preferences. And a lot of times I have to get out front and say my personal preferences are not like the end-all, be-all. The review is exactly that, my personal goddamn opinion. Now, I talk about certain things in that review that some guys may really like, and after my negative, quote-unquote, review on that pistol, a lot of guys went out and bought that pistol because they're like, I get why you have your personal issues with it, but I like everything that you just didn't like, so I'm gonna go get it. I got you, dude. We could disagree all we want. I don't give a shit. I don't live your life. We're different people. So, and a lot of times, those user interface details on what sights look like for instance, like Walther PPQ as a wide as fuck rear sight. Some guys really hate that. Some guys really like it. You know, I still need to know those kinds of things, and I want to know what it looks like to you when you're tracking a front sight post under speed, that kind of stuff. You know, even if you didn't like it. You know, so those little details are usually ironed out only after those 1,000 rounds. That minimum portion of it, right? And you notice that tons of fucking guys now do like minimum 1,000 rounds, and there are guys that are like 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 rounds, and you guys have seen it before on this channel, like 8, 10, 15, 18,000 rounds, that kind of stuff, and that's a longevity review to see if my initial thoughts on it, right, after that at bare minimum 1,000 rounds, if my initial thoughts on it match up with what happens later on. Things can grow on you or away from you. That's just how it goes. So, you know, those are all things that I look for in that review. Okay. Now, this is kind of subjective, but it is relevant. I know I don't do it all the time. Sometimes I just forget. But I would kind of like to know what it runs for as far as like money and that kind of stuff. While I'm listening to you, is it the end all be all? No, because I can look that up in 5 seconds, right? But in the middle of the thing, you know, especially if you have things you don't like or that you do like, because you can sit there and be like, and this right here, this piece of craftsmanship is one of the reasons why this Knight's Armament SR-15 is worth the money to me. I got you, right? For other people, that's not enough, but we get it, right? Justification for why that particular product is or is not worth the price point that they ask for is more what I'm looking for than anything else. So there it is. And then, of course, I need to know, you know, if it was reliable. I used to make mistakes before, make mistakes before to where if I just had an issue, but it was with a particular magazine and that kind of stuff. This is like early days, like videos that aren't even up anymore, right? If I had a particular issue with a particular magazine, I wouldn't even count that, right? I wouldn't even report on it. I'm not that person anymore, because it's at that point to where it's like, hey, if it fucked up on that one type of magazine, right, I should still report it, regardless to what it is, even like user issues. And a lot of times, like me personally, I won't quantify that all the way by saying I had X number of issues that I caused because I was being a dummy, but I will mention it, right? Like on the Dan Wesson specialist review, I talked about shooting left-handed, and because, you know, it's 9mm and the ejection force isn't as crazy as a 45, my own thumbs were causing problems. Guys do need to know that shit, you know. So over time, I've evolved, and it's one of those deals where it's like the little stuff still gets reported regardless of what kind of stoppage it was. You know, that kind of stuff. So as far as reliability is concerned, I try to stay as meticulous as possible with that, even if it's some kind of short shuck in there, or even if it's something fucking wild that is likely to not happen, but I'll still do my best to talk about, this particular ammo had some kind of issue with it, it was a one-off thing, and if it doesn't matter that much, I will still speak on it and be like, yeah, it was a split case on this particular thing, or I had a sideways primer, you know, fucking wild, but it did happen, you know, that kind of thing. So I try to stay as meticulous as possible on that. And yeah, I forget shit, sometimes it happens, but I try to stay as meticulous and spotless with that as I can. And it's obviously stuff I look for because I bring it into my videos. And of course, I would like to know, with some sort of semblance, what kind of accuracy I'm putting out. And if it's something really high or really low, I do want to see that kind of stuff on paper. Because if it's like an AK that shoots, just for instance, okay, an AK that shoots 1 minute consistently, like 3 inches at 300, I would love to see that on a piece of steel or a piece of paper. Now, if it's average type stuff, like this AK is a 2 minute to 2.5 minute shooter, all fucking day, 0 to 400, cool. I don't really need to see that on paper, unless it's got some wild shit going on with a particular ammo that it does or doesn't like, you know, okay, cool. Or if it's an AR that shoots 1.5 to 2 minute all day, okay, cool. That's fairly average. I don't really give a shit. I can take or leave whether or not dude's on a bench. I personally hate the bench because I want to see not what the Vice's capabilities are, but the guy's capabilities are, especially if dude's got glass or some kind of shit like that. So those are all little things that, a lot of them, there's little inserts here and there that you can take or leave. If it's got average performance for like a regular fighting rifle or whatever, I don't really need to see that. But if it's got really poor or really good accuracy, I would really like to see that on a piece of paper, and I would like to know what kind of ammo it is, right? And you can go long form or short form on that. Either way, I'm going to go, if I end up getting it, I'm going to dope it myself. I'm not going to take your word for it. That's another thing. When you watch reviews, please, Jesus, like develop your own data for it. Don't just take dude's word on it, and if some other shit happens, right, don't ignore it and be like, oh, well, guys said it should perform like this, and then start making excuses. No, still be like, hey, with this ammo, under these conditions, it started doing X or Y, or it started fucking up, right? So I would pay attention to that kind of stuff and kind of go from there. But I know this wasn't really all that short. I know that I kind of went through a bunch of different stuff here, but really this is, one, a look into my process on what is important to me, right? When I'm reviewing a thing, and hopefully it helps you guys not just understand where I'm coming from, but why I do that. And hopefully it affects you and helps you out with purchases and reviews and that kind of stuff, and certain things that you can detect right away where it's like, this is a fucking website bullet point, like 1 through 7 type review. I'm out. I'm gonna go find somebody else that actually shot the thing a lot or whatever, you know what I mean? So that's really all I got. But if you guys want to come out and train with us, that kind of deal, we have classes all over the damn place. Next weekend, we are getting ready to go out to, not this coming, but next weekend, we're getting ready to go out to Drakesboro, Kentucky, and we're going to do a pistol 1 and 2 course there, and then we're going to go to Brush Creek, Tennessee, in April for a pistol 1, and that's all I got for April. May, at the top and the bottom of the month, I'm going to be in Louisiana for pistol 1 and 2 and rifle 1 and 2. So those of you guys that live out in that fucking swampland, come out and have fun with us. And then other stuff is on the pipeline. Like in June, we're going to Tulsa, Oklahoma for rifle 1. I'm forgetting something. Oh yeah, and Father's Day weekend we're going to Paisley, Florida for pistol 1 and 2, down at the Full Spectrum Warrior range there. So that's what we have on the docket. I'm going to be adding more stuff fairly soon because I like to get stuff out a few months in advance to give you guys time to prepare, that kind of thing. If you want to train with us a little bit cheaper, you can go to Patreon and pay $35 a month and train with us as much as you like, because I like to format this kind of stuff based off of fighting gym mentality, where we can get people in over and over and over again and charge them at a reasonable rate monthly versus like $500 for 4 days. And you can go look at the industry. Nobody has a deal like that. And the object, obviously, is to get you back more than once so we can actually develop you and get you a lot of reps and that kind of thing. So, you know, you come in, you learn a certain thing, and then you come back and you start to learn something else and brush up on the things you previously learned, blah, blah, blah. That kind of stuff. So that is what it is. If you want to join us on Facebook, link in the description yet again. If you want to buy a damn hat from us, link in the description also. So check all that out. If you feel the need to, all voluntary, obviously. I can't make you do shit because, number one, you're probably American and we're not good at being forced to do anything. And number two, I can't like reach through there, grab you, and force you to click on shit. You know, I'm rambling now. So I'm going to go. But hope you guys enjoyed the video. And remember, guys, regular guy's firearm is the last defense against tyranny. Be easy.